Robert Haynes had been riding with the Iron Cross Motorcycle Club for 23 years, and in all that time he had learned one simple truth: real strength wasn't about looking tough or making noise. It was about knowing when to step up for someone who couldn't step up for themselves. That October morning started like any other. Robert and 3 of his brothers from the club were heading back from a charity ride when they decided to stop at the police station on Maple Street. One of the newer members had a cousin who worked there, and they were just planning to say hello and maybe grab some coffee before heading home. Robert remembered pulling into that parking lot. The sun was warm on his face. His old Harley rumbled beneath him like a loyal friend. He was thinking about his granddaughter's birthday party that weekend and whether he should get her that art set she'd been wanting. Then he saw it. Officer Derek Mitchell was standing near the side entrance of the station. He was a younger guy, maybe in his early 30s, with that particular swagger some officers got when they thought the badge made them more important than everyone else. And there on the ground leaning against the blue-painted wall was an elderly homeless man. Robert knew that man. His name was William Morris, though most people just called him Bill. Bill had been living on these streets for nearly 5 years, ever since his wife passed and he lost his apartment. Robert had talked to him a few times. Bought him lunch once or twice. Bill was a veteran. Served in Vietnam. He had kind eyes that crinkled at the corners, and he always said thank you like he really meant it. What Robert saw next made his blood run cold. Officer Mitchell was standing over Bill, saying something Robert couldn't quite hear from that distance. Bill was trying to explain something, his hands raised in a peaceful gesture. And then, quick as lightning, the officer's hand shot out and struck Bill across the face. It wasn't a punch exactly, but it was a hard slap. The kind meant to humiliate more than injure. Bill's head snapped to the side and his worn baseball cap fell to the ground. Robert felt something shift inside him. His brothers felt it too, because the rumble of their engines all cut off at the same time. They'd seen it. They'd all seen it. Robert dismounted slowly. He was a big man. 6'3" with a full beard gone mostly gray and arms covered in tattoos that told the story of a long life. When he walked with purpose, and right now his purpose was getting to Bill before that officer did anything else. "Hey!" Robert called out. His voice was deep and carried across that parking lot like rolling thunder. Officer Mitchell turned around. For just a second Robert saw something flicker in the younger man's eyes. Maybe surprise. Maybe fear. But then that swagger came back and Mitchell puffed up his chest. "This doesn't concern you," Mitchell said. "Move along." Robert kept walking. His brothers were behind him now. 4 men in leather vests with patches that told you they'd earned their place in this world through loyalty and brotherhood. "I'm making it my concern," Robert said. He was close enough now to see Bill's face. There was a red mark on the old man's cheek. His eyes were wet, but he wasn't crying. He just looked tired. So very tired. "This man was loitering," Mitchell said. "I'm within my rights to remove him from the premises. By hitting him." Robert's voice was calm, steady, but there was steel underneath. "By putting your hands on an elderly veteran who was just sitting there minding his own business." Mitchell's jaw tightened. "You need to step back right now or I'll arrest you for interfering with police business." Robert didn't step back. Instead he did something that Mitchell clearly wasn't expecting. He knelt down next to Bill. Right there on that dirty concrete. He picked up Bill's cap and handed it to him. "You okay, Bill?" Robert asked softly. Bill nodded. "I'm all right, Robert. Don't want you getting in trouble on my account." "No trouble," Robert said. Then he stood up and looked at Mitchell again. "I want to speak to your supervisor." "You want to what?" Mitchell laughed, but it was a nervous sound. "Your supervisor. Your captain. Whoever's in charge. Because what you just did. That's not policing. That's bullying. And I won't stand by and watch it happen." 2 more officers had come out of the station now. One was an older sergeant named Tom Reeves. Robert knew Tom from various community events over the years. Tom was a good man. The kind of cop who actually cared about the people he served. "What's going on here?" Tom asked. Before Mitchell could speak, Robert told him. Plain and simple. No embellishment. Just the facts. Mitchell hit Bill. "We saw it. All of us." Tom's face went through several expressions. Surprise. Disappointment. And finally resignation. He'd probably known Mitchell was trouble, but maybe hadn't caught him at it before. "Derek, go inside," Tom said. His voice left no room for argument. "We'll talk about this in my office." Mitchell started to protest, but Tom held up a hand. "Now." After Mitchell stalked inside, Tom turned to Robert. "I'm sorry you had to see that. And I'm sorry it happened. Bill, you okay? Do you need medical attention?" Bill shook his head. "Just my pride that's hurt." Tom nodded. "Listen, I can't promise you what will happen with Mitchell, but I can promise you I'll file a full report. And if you gentlemen are willing to give statements that would help." "We'll do more than that," Robert said. "I've got a friend who does legal work for veterans. Pro bono. Bill, if you want to file a formal complaint, we'll help you through the process." Bill looked up at Robert with those kind crinkled eyes. "Why are you doing this? You don't really know me." Robert thought about that for a moment. He thought about his own life. The mistakes he'd made. The people who'd shown him kindness when he didn't deserve it. He thought about his daughter Jolie and how he'd raised her to stand up for people who couldn't stand up for themselves. "Because it's the right thing to do," Robert said simply. "And because you're not alone anymore." What happened next surprised everyone, including Robert. Other officers started coming out of the station. They'd heard what happened. Some of them knew Bill too. One of them, a young officer named Sarah Chen, had tears in her eyes. "Bill helped me once," she said quietly. 3 years ago when my car broke down in the rain. He was the one who stayed with me until the tow truck came. Wouldn't leave even though he was getting soaked. I tried to give him money but he wouldn't take it. Said he was just being neighborly." Another officer spoke up. "He found my daughter's stuffed bear once. She'd dropped it outside the grocery store. Bill kept it for 2 days waiting for us to come back looking for it. My little girl still has that bear." Stories kept coming. Small kindnesses that Bill had done. Quiet acts of compassion that he'd never mentioned to anyone. And Robert realized something important. Bill wasn't invisible. Not to everyone. There were people who saw him. Who valued him. They just hadn't been paying attention when it mattered most. Tom Reeves cleared his throat. "Bill, I know this is asking a lot, but would you feel comfortable coming inside? I'd like to take your statement properly. And then if you're willing, I'd like to introduce you to Captain Morrison. I think he needs to hear your story." Bill looked uncertain, but Robert put a gentle hand on his shoulder. "We'll come with you if you want." So they all went inside. Robert and his brothers, Bill, several of the officers who'd come out to support him. It was quite a procession walking through that police station. Captain James Morrison was a weathered man in his late 50s with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He listened to everything. Didn't interrupt. Just listened. And when everyone was done talking, he sat back in his chair and let out a long breath. "Mr. Morris," he said, "first, I want to apologize. What happened to you today should never have happened. Not here. Not anywhere. And second, I want you to know that Officer Mitchell will be placed on administrative leave pending a full investigation." He turned to Robert. "And I want to thank you and your friends for stepping up. A lot of people would have just kept writing. But you didn't." Robert shrugged. "Like I said, it was the right thing to do. But the story doesn't end there. Over the next few weeks something beautiful happened. The officers who'd shared their stories about Bill started organizing. They put together a fund. Found Bill a small apartment. Got him connected with veteran services he'd been too proud to seek out on his own. Sarah Chen's husband ran a construction company and he offered Bill part-time work doing light maintenance. Robert's friend Emmy, who ran the Veterans Legal Aid Clinic, helped Bill apply for benefits he'd earned but never claimed. And Jolie, Robert's daughter who worked as a social worker, helped coordinate everything. Bill cried when they gave him the keys to his apartment. Real tears this time. Not from pain but from gratitude. From hope. "I don't deserve this," he said. "Yes, you do," Robert told him. "Everyone deserves dignity. Everyone deserves a second chance." As for Officer Mitchell, he was let go from the force. Some people said it was too harsh. Others said it wasn't harsh enough. Robert didn't spend much time thinking about it. He figured Mitchell would have to live with his own conscience and that was punishment enough. 6 months later, Robert got a call from Bill. Would he and his brothers come to dinner? Bill wanted to cook for them. To say thank you properly. They showed up at Bill's apartment on a Sunday evening. It was a small place but Bill had made it a home. There were photos on the walls. Plants in the windows. The smell of pot roast filled the air, They sat around Bill's little table and ate and talked and laughed. Bill told stories about Vietnam. About his late wife Emma, who he still missed every single day. About the granddaughter he'd lost touch with but was now reconnecting with thanks to Emmy's help. And Robert looked around that table at these men who'd become brothers not through blood but through choice. Through showing up when it mattered. Through doing the right thing even when it was hard. "You know what I learned," Bill said as they were finishing dessert. "I learned that kindness isn't dead. That there are still people who care. Who see you when the world tries to make you invisible." Robert smiled. "And you know what I learned? That one moment can change everything. That standing up for someone doesn't require anything special. Just requires you to be present. To be willing." Later, as Robert rode home through the autumn evening, he thought about how easy it would have been to just keep writing that day. To pretend he hadn't seen anything. To let someone else deal with it. But he hadn't. And because of that, everything had changed. Not just for Bill, though Bill's life was certainly better. But for Robert too. For his brothers. For those officers who'd been reminded why they joined the force in the first place. For an entire community that had been given a reminder about what really matters. Love matters. Kindness matters. Standing up for people who can't stand up for themselves matters. These things don't make headlines. They don't get awards or recognition. But they change the world anyway. One moment at a time. One act of compassion at a time. And that, Robert thought as he pulled into his driveway, was the only kind of legacy worth leaving behind.